NFTs or non-fungible tokens are getting a lot of buzz right now, but are these new assets just a flash in the pan or are they here to stay? Here now with key insights is Doug Clinton. He's managing partner at Loup Ventures. Thanks so much for joining us today, Doug.
Thanks, Alyssa.
All right, so these NFTs, give us the rundown for the uninitiated. What exactly is the allure of this new class of assets, essentially?
It's a one-of-one digital asset. I think that's really what's important. If you think about an NFT versus Bitcoin, which is probably something almost everyone is familiar with, one Bitcoin, if you and I each had a Bitcoin, they're the same thing. We could trade it back and forth, and there's really no benefit to owning any individual Bitcoin. An NFT, on the other hand, is unique. Every single one is different. One of the most popular NFTs is called CryptoPunks, which is what's called generative art. There's 10,000 of them. And every single one of these 10,000 CryptoPunks have different sort of qualities. They look different. They're little pieces of art. And so each one in and of itself is unique. And it means that they all have unique values that people are willing to pay for them.
It's very interesting. And then there's also a component of this outside of the art world and in the sports arena. So what exactly is going on there?
That's right. An NFT can be any digital asset. It could be art. It could be a GIF. It could be a clip, a highlight from a game. To your point, in the sports arena, Top Shot is something that's very popular right now. It's run by a startup. And they are essentially, think of them as, short, maybe 5-second video clips of LeBron James with a dunk in a recent game. And like we talked about with the NFTs earlier, they're limited editions, almost like trading cards from back in the day. And people are willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for some of these unique and verified gifts on the Top Shot platform.
Yeah, the modern trading card. And so people are making serious dough off of these NFTs right now. But do you think that's sustainable? Is this just kind of the next tulip bulb crisis, or is this a sustainable new market?
I don't think it's the tulip bulb market, but I would say, we are cautious on the space. We love the theme, and I think that NFTs are going to have a big part of the future. But if you just think about technology over the past several decades, we often have these really acute booms before the technology sort of matures and is ready for prime time. I think about the internet in the 2000s. I think of even Bitcoin back in 2017, where we had this huge surge of interest, a lot of retail interest, and obviously we came down 80% from the peak. I don't know that we'll have that happen with NFTs, but I do think just the heat around the segment right now sort of warrants caution. And if I think about it from a much longer term perspective, if we do get a pullback in NFTs, I would be very interested in looking at some of what we call the blue chip NFTs, things like the CryptoPunks, potentially things like the Top Shot highlights that we talked about. Those are the ones I think that will have value over the long term.
And from a more traditional investor angle, what should individual investors be thinking about in terms of getting access to this theme in the public market? I know there's at least one SPAC out there that's involved in this. Are we going to see more of this theme coming to the public market?
I think so. I think every company that plays in digital content has to be thinking about NFTs right now. I think one of the really unique characteristics of NFTs is rights management. So 10 years ago, DRM, digital rights management, was a very hot topic, how you control the ownership of a digital asset. And this NFT structure is actually a perfect tool for that. And so the idea is, let's say a song file. Maybe I own that song file and I want to rent it out to people on the internet. I could earn a royalty from that through the blockchain, verified through my ownership. And the artist could also own a piece of the royalty after he or she sold me that song. And so I think that you're going to see more and more public companies that have exposure to digital assets think about using the NFT structure to distribute the assets and also to monetize them over the long term.
So on that note, what companies in particular do you think are ripe for really leaning into this?
You mentioned a SPAC. I think you're referring maybe to Tops, which we talked about trading cards earlier. I think that's a really great example of a company that's sort of evolving into this new space, an old physical collectible company, now thinking about obviously NFTs in a digital world. I think you can look at a company like Sotheby's. They sold and are working on selling NFTs, Christie's as well, the traditional auction houses working in the art world. I think those are both companies that have a lot of exposure. If you think about traditional collectibles now moving to the digital world, I think that's a great place to look from a public perspective.
All right. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on this theme with that cautious optimism, I guess. Thanks so much for your insights today, Doug.
Thank you.
Hi there. Thanks so much for watching Investing Strategies on our YouTube channel. If you want more executive interviews and analysis of key trends to watch, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date.